Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Awesome. Even being on Shark Tank, you would think that I wouldn't be nervous right now, but it still happens. I love that this is in the morning, and I love to start my mornings really positive. So when I wake up, I say 3 things I'm grateful for. So if you all could do me a favor and turn to the person next to you and say 3 things you're grateful for today. So go ahead and do that. All right. Appreciate you guys. I love it. I love this energy. Love this energy. Who wants to share the 3 things that you're grateful for? Ivan.
CreativeMornings. Yeah. Fast track, because I got here on time. Riverside, so that's pretty good. And then coffee, so that's pretty solid.
Yeah. Here you go. Some cookies. Hey. Participation points. Cookie points. So a little bit about myself. Like Gregory mentioned, I grew up here in Orange County in Anaheim. I'm one of 3 children, so, I'm an adult now, but I have a brother and a sister, and my parents immigrated here from the Philippines, and this is something that I'm very fortunate to have, is that my parents came here from another country, showed us what hard work looks like. And this will play out a lot through my life, is this ability to look at them as role models. And they came here, so my talk right now is about inclusion. And so they came here because they felt that this was a country that would include them and they can make a living for themselves, right? They can make something higher. They could do, there was a lot of opportunity here. So I'm very excited to share that story, and it was a really cool experience because, as you know, I was on Shark Tank, right? And we did like so much preparation for that. We went from anywhere from like grabbing all these cookies and bribing the casting agents to get us to the next step. We prepped, so we took a step from Beyonce. So she used to run up hills to get up her heart rate up because we knew we were going to be nervous on the show. And so like, what can we do to mimic that? And so we used to run around the office, do push-ups, kettlebell swings, and then we would pitch, right? And then we get to the show, and the doors open. We're walking through, and my heart's just pounding. And I'm like, don't faint, Chris, don't faint, Chris. Breathe. And then we get to the floor, and then we pitch. Luckily, all that preparation got us to this point. And then they start asking us questions. They ask us our background. And it was really cool because I got to share the story of my parents and them coming here as immigrants. So like my dad, so I remember we grew up with nothing. My dad used to work 4 jobs. He used to do stock at 2 different groceries. He had a paper route, and he worked at a gas station just to put food on the table. And my mom, she used to work at the El Toro base, which is no longer here, is now the Great Park. And she used to be a busser, so she used to clean up tables. And I remember she used to carry like a dictionary and a thesaurus because she was like, I don't want my English to get in the way of my goals. And now she's it was cool to share that story because now she's the assistant chief at LA County Fire Department. And so that was a really powerful thing for me to share because they were included, right? There's this feeling of inclusion, the power of inclusion of our society. Right now, it's an interesting time because there's a lot of division, but there's a lot of opportunity for us to include others. And if it wasn't for that ability to welcome immigrants to this, to here and say, hey, how can we provide you a ton of value? My parents, wouldn't have gotten to where they are now. I wouldn't be here where I am right now. And so that was a thing that really stood out to me after Shark Tank, is this ability to reflect and like, how many times have I been included, and how has that changed my life? How has that changed my family's life? And so now with business, like, how many of you all have a business or a side gig? Raise the hands. Awesome. And one thing that has helped us in our success is figuring out where are people feeling excluded, right? So before cookies, I was I started a tutoring company. I was living at home at the time, and I had $40 in my bank account, and I decided, hey, why not I start a tutoring company? Because I hated school, but I loved learning. And for me, I felt excluded because I learned differently. And I was like, I wonder if other kids felt the same way. And so I started this tutoring company. I used to lie to my parents because they all, they worked so hard to get here. They wanted something stable for me. I had this +3 rule where I tell them, like, if I had 1 student, I would add 3 to that. Say, oh, I have 4 students. And if I had 10 students, I would add 3 to that. 13 students, and eventually got to 150 students. And what I learned through that experience is a lot of these kids felt excluded because they learned differently, right? How many of you all love lectures? Yep. And so none of them love lectures. They love participating. They love learning in different ways. And that's what I picked up from them. We had a student. Her name's Jawara. She came here from Saudi Arabia, and her parents asked me to help her. And we looked at her grades. She was getting 100% homework, 0% on all the quizzes and tests. It was like 0%, 0%, 0%, 0%. And like, she was like very quiet and very discouraged as well. And so I had to figure out, like, okay, how do we get this up, right? And I realized that she felt excluded in some ways because in Saudi Arabia, they use calculators, right? And we figured that out, and like, okay, you don't know your multiplication tables and you're trying to learn algebra. And so then we started working on multiplication tables, and then, we went 2 times 2, 3 times 3, and then worked all the way up. And then she started getting confidence. We went from 50%, 60%, 80%, and then she got 100% on tests. And she got Student of the Year. Wow. And it was this, going in with this intention and understanding that this person feels kind of out of place, right? How do I make this person feel comfortable and confident? So one is identify those areas. And for cookies, so the reason how we started this was I went on a keto diet 3 years ago, felt amazing, except I would go to these parties and everything is like, there's cookies, can't have that. There's brownies, can't have that. I would go to, a birthday party, cake, can't have that. And I was getting fed up. I was like, I feel like I'm losing out. I'm feeling this FOMO. And I got my friend and co-founder now on it, and on keto, and he felt amazing. He lost 40 pounds, and he was struggling with sugar cravings too. And we're like, okay, this sucks. Let's do something about this. And we go to my mom's kitchen, throw on some aprons, ask her about our ovens, and we start baking, and eventually created something that we like. And so it was really important for us to understand where people feel excluded. So we went to a low-carb conference. We took all our savings and said, hey, let's spend this money on a conference. We go to this conference, and it was very interesting because we thought people would be like, oh yeah, a cookie, right? We actually go there, and people are giving us dirty looks. They're like, these people have like diabetes. They're struggling with all these health issues. They're scientists, and they see this table full of cookies, and they're looking at us, and they're like, what the hell is a cookie doing here? And then someone tries it, right? And then they're like, oh, this is good. This is made with almond flour and monk fruit. And then someone runs up to our table and they're like, hey, I have diabetes. I have a glucose monitor. And then they show us and we're panicking. We're like, what did we do? Did we fuck up your insulin or something? Your sugar? Sorry my language, but we were panicking. And then they showed us and like, they're like, yeah, I had this cookie and look, it's a straight line before, and then it didn't even go up any points. And usually when they have a cookie, it goes up 100 points, right? And that showed us the power of what we had. And so the second thing that we realize is like, with any idea is there's exclusion. So what is the value we can provide to these people by including them, right? When I think of inclusion, you know, some people might think, oh, it's being everything to everybody, right? But if you're trying to please everybody, you please nobody, right? But how I see inclusion is, how do I provide the most value, the maximum value to the most people? And we realized this with cookies, so it's really cool because some 6'6" guy comes up to our table, and he's buffed out. He has muscles bulging out of his dress shirt, and we're like, whoa, this guy's really intimidating. But he goes up to us and he says, you guys are my heroes. And we look at him very confused. And he said, well, my son has type 1 diabetes. We have him on a low carb protocol. And for the first time, he can put a cookie in his lunchbox and not have to worry. And that's when we realized that we have a bigger mission here. We realized how much value there is in food. Like, food is delicious, but it's also a social thing, and it's feeling included, right? Breaking bread with other people. And so we realized that we can have this maximum value by creating products where people don't feel left out. We have fans that go to the movie theaters, bring our cookies because they can't have anything in the movie theater. They'll go to a wedding and then they'll pop out our cookies at the wedding because they can't have cake. But it was like this feeling of feeling normal, right? Feeling included, feeling part of this experience. And so that was an amazing experience for us, is understanding how we can provide maximum value to these people. So always going in with that maximum value. And then once we understand the value, there's a big question of why are these people feeling excluded right now, right? We know that the exclusion is an issue. We know the value that they can get, but there's an underlying issue there. Why weren't there cookies before, right? And that were low in sugar, low in carb. And we realized because it's hard to make what we make. So we went to a manufacturer, and before this, we used to hand scoop 100,000 cookies a day. We had a team. And then we're like, we can't do this forever. We can't be here from morning till night baking cookies. So let's get some manufacturer to get involved. We go to the manufacturer, and then we put on our hairnets, and we start experimenting and putting our dough in there. And they said, this is not going to work. There's no sugars, no gluten in there to keep everything together. And we're like, no, we can figure out a way. And we test with 100 pounds of dough. This is almost as heavy as I am. And it goes to the machine, and there's all these crumbs, and the fat's leaking out, and it's not working. And we're like, oh my gosh, we just wasted all this money on this. And then we try again, and we try again, and we realize that manufacturers weren't doing this because it's so hard to do. And so we're like, okay, how do we solve this issue? And then so we're like, okay, let's use almond flours, get these different ingredients and be creative with it. And it forced us to be creative and innovative in how we're doing things. So now we're looking at our products as okay, we start out with cookies, but you know what? I miss ding dong. So why don't we try to create a Twinkie or a ding dong? And we know it's hard, so now we have these food scientists that know a lot about ingredients and creating these these delicious things, these items that traditionally you'd feel guilty about, that it would hurt you. And that's where this fun process, where entrepreneurship gets really fun, or creativity gets really fun, is we look at these hard problems, figuring out like, how do we get there, right? And so yeah, so it's been a wild journey for us. And each step of the way, we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we include these people and change their lives through our products? If I can leave you with one thing, is when we're thinking about our businesses, or we're thinking about how we work with people, is what is the maximum value? How can we provide maximum value for these people? Because it's one thing to just include them and say, hey, join our group. But it's another thing to say, how can I include you in this? How can I give you as much value as I can? If you all can, if you all can go on, so I'll let you go on your phones right now, or if you have a piece of paper, is if you can write this question, or text, maybe even text it to yourself, is how can I provide maximum value by including someone else? Whether it's on your team, whether it's your customer, or in your business, what can you do to provide maximum value by including others? What can you do today to include others and provide maximum value? And I'm going to leave you with that question because I believe that to have great answers, you got to have great questions. And for you to just sit on that and figure out, how can I provide maximum value today? Thank you guys so much for having me here. I think we have time. If you have any questions or anything like that.